The double consciousness is a very difficult topic to understand, but it is also an essential topic in understanding the connection between African American literature, African American culture, and many of the struggles that we still see today. Basically, the idea stems from W.E.B. Du Bois, who is a philosopher and author famous for two works, his biography on race and the 1903 The Souls of Black Folks. In The Souls of Black Folks, that was written in 1903, he refers to a sense of two-ness that the black experiences in a white-dominated society. And as a result, there's a racial oppression, but there's also a mental uneasiness that is there all the time for in dealing with racial issues. His argument was this, that after the Egyptians, after the Indians, the Greeks and the Romans, and the Teutons and the Mongolians, the Negro is a sort of seventh son, born with a veil and gifted with a second sight in this American world, a world which yields him no true self-consciousness, but only lets him see himself through the revelation of the other world. And the key word there is the other world. So he's saying that an African American struggles with this idea of only viewing themselves through the eyes of the other, because that's the way they're depicted in culture. And this was, again, 1903, and we still see this evident today. He said, one ever feels his two-ness, an American and a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unrecorded strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. So his basic argument or construct is that there's this divide because there's no true self-conscious. It's a double consciousness, how I see myself versus how I see myself through the eyes of white America, and the two struggle with one another. So you take a modern example like, let's say, LeBron James. LeBron James has this struggle where he is constantly trying to hold on to his blackness, and rightfully so. That's his culture. But he's also constantly viewed through the eyes of white America, the TV media, the NBA even is depicting this idea of how he's supposed to act. So where does he reconcile this, and what's the right path to take? And we've seen it go one way or the other for so many prominent African Americans. Some are dive fully into the way they are viewed by white America and often get deemed a sellout. Some are often viewed as too black, and that's a phrase that you heard about LeBron James when he wore a T-shirt supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, and he was ridiculed. In fact, some of the white media told him to just shut up and dribble and stuff like that. So Du Bois goes way back with this argument, and he talks about, I began to feel that dichotomy. A dichotomy means a separation or a dividing into two, which all my life has characterized my thought. How far can love for my oppressed race accord with love for my oppressing country? And when these loyalties diverge, where shall my soul find refuge? So he's digging into this idea. How can I be truly black and truly respect my culture and my heritage, but also respect a country that has systematically oppressed my people? And it's a struggle in America. And we all kind of strive with our own reconciliation with the past and the history of slavery and such. But for one who is involved directly in the lineage of the slave, there's this constant feeling of both pride and betrayal, because where does the line draw? So, again, I said it's a very difficult concept to understand. It's also a very difficult concept to explain. I think the best way to explain it is through coming up with modern examples where we can recognize it. So when we see an episode, I'm going to ask you to watch an episode of Blackish. It's called The Johnson Show, and it's a wonderful episode of a great and extremely well-written series, but it deals with the idea of the natural inclination of an African-American person to hope that when something bad happens, it is not blamed on an African-American. And we see this kind of this pseudo-celebration when they find out that a murder was, or I think it was a murder, I forget the exact scene, but that some crime was committed by a white guy instead of a black guy, and they celebrate, and it really cues into this idea of, wait a second, this is part of this double consciousness that is constantly being dealt with. So what I want you to do, and here's W.E.B. Du Bois back in his era, what I want you to do is I want you to watch that episode of Blackish, and then I want you to try to think of a modern example where you have seen this double consciousness play out in real life, in the media or wherever it is. The only thing I ask is that you don't use LeBron James, since I just used LeBron James, but you can go ahead and try to draw from any of the modern examples that you can think of.